Hey friend, welcome to the treehouse. Want to come inside? Oh, wait, just one last thing. All right, let's go inside.
Welcome, friends. Hello, welcome to Frame by Frame, my weekly show where I go over student photos and give my feedback. It's always fun to be here hanging out with you all, and I'm happy to be back. I missed last week because I was busy recording a new update to my Adobe Premiere Pro video editing class, so apologies for not being here on Thursday. But I hope you had a really good week. This past weekend, it was a holiday here in the States. The kids had 2 days off early in the week, and I decided to take them camping. So I took my boys camping with my dad, which was fun, and got out in nature, which was also awesome. And I'm wearing a sweater, which is amazing because finally here in Southern California, it is cold enough to be wearing a sweater in the middle of November. So thankful about that as well. And so let me know in the comments how you're doing. Let me know what good things have happened this past week for you, or not so good things. Please share. We are here to hang out. So thank you again also for people being here yesterday in the live Q&A with Will and Sam. We had fun. And did you guys hear the news? Did you guys hear the news that I got yesterday at the beginning of the stream? You're going to have to go over to that video and watch that because that was pretty epic, and you can watch it live as it unfolds. It's at the start of the live Q&A. So today I'm going to be going over the 2 weekly challenges that we've had the past couple weeks, seasonal changes and rural scenes, which I actually think kind of go in conjunction. They're kind of nice topics together, and we'll see what you do. Big shout out to the members here live with us. Emma, Colette, hey, very nice to have you here. If you are tuning in live and you haven't commented, please leave a comment. I'd love to know who's tuning in. Quick announcement, really the only announcement for today is this week's challenge is Creative Light. So go ahead and check that out. Also, just a heads up about the upcoming live sessions. I'll be doing frame by frame next week, and then we'll be doing a break. Actually, I guess Thursday, November 20th. It's the 13th today. That's what's going on right now. Yeah, we'll be back next week. The following week is Thanksgiving here, so I'm going to have to delete this event. That's not going to be live. And we'll be back in December, and the next live Q&A is December 10th. So RSVP to those if you want to join. Thank you to everyone for posting your questions to the live Q&A page. We'll try to get to your other 2 questions. They're good ones, I think, to start out on because they spark a good conversation. So we'll get to those. But if you have any questions and you can't make it live, post them here. Bedtime Shorts. What's up? Celeste from sunny South Africa. Hello. Diola Doctor. Thomas. Miriam. Hello. Yeah, I missed you guys too. I could only speak so much on a microphone per week, and I just have such limited time to record courses with all of my things going on. So that's why I had to miss it last week, but happy to be back. All right, so we're going to jump right into seasonal changes. Let me know if this is your first time watching. Just a quick overview. I rate photos 1 through 5, 3 being a good photo, a photo that is composed well, technically looks good. It hits the mark on the topic. So you followed the prompt. And so that good photos get 3s. Photos that wow me a little bit get a 4. Maybe we'll get 1 or 2 photos that I think wow me the most. Those are going to be 5s. If there's some issues with the technical stuff or the theme or the meeting the challenge, you might get a 1 or 2. And I try to spread it out as much as possible. So grab your coffee, your drink of choice. Let me know in the comments what you're sipping on right now. And let's get into the seasonal changes. All right, Abhishek. Abhishek always posting some good photos, being a participant in our weekly challenges. Thank you. I like the color we see in the trees. It's cool to see more than just that, have like a bit of a story with our floaty boat thing. Looks like one of those pedal boats. I think to make this photo a bit more dynamic, I would want to maybe even be zoomed in a bit more on the subjects, which is the paddle boat. And maybe if it was facing towards us, because right now with it floating away, it's kind of hard to see what it is. Generally, this is like a very nice scene. I like the angle you're shot at. This is one where people are always asking, well, can't we just like shoot like the horizons at an angle? And this is an example of that, where the horizon or like that main line, it's not perpendicular to the camera, that river edge, and you'd want that to have an angle. It kind of creates a leading line. Maybe for this one, a little bit more of a leading line would be nice. So I would give this like a solid 3, Abhishek. And yeah, I think just maybe changing up the composition to be tighter in. If you had a lens that could go tighter on a subject, waiting for that to turn around, or positioning yourself so that you were in the front of that might help. Maybe even like, maybe a different way to do it would have been a more symmetrical, like from the side of the riverbank with the lines being straight across the frame, with the trees in the background flat, with like the little, like, what is that? Flamingo or duck? I don't know what, pink duck flamingo thing, like going across. Yeah, I think there's opportunities there. And as the trees change colors, it might be a good opportunity to go back again. Celeste also drinking coffee. Cheers to you. Miriam, welcome back for your second time. All right, squirrels from Sandra M. I've got lots of squirrels sitting outside right now. My window, eating the bird food that's being dropped on the floor. I love the story element of this being a squirrel amongst these leaves, and it's not just like the leaves themselves. I like having that dynamic subject, really nice. I think my issue with this one is just the edit is a little bit dark. I think you could have brought up that exposure overall, and then also it has a little bit of a green tinge to it, a green tint to it. So adjusting that white balance, I think it looks off to me. I'm not sure. And if you have comments or feedback, please comment in the chats for people who are watching. They love to get other people's feedback as well. So I would just probably maybe in like Lightroom, where you have your slider from magenta to green, shift that a little bit, or just play around with the auto white balance settings when editing, because I think that would even make the orange in the leaves pop a bit. Maybe crop just a tiny bit closer in, but overall, like the focus and the composition is nice. I like the sort of rule of thirds weight of the squirrel being on one side. So it's really just that exposure and the green tint that I see that I would fix. But overall, I think a pretty solid choice. I like the subject being in there, so I'm going to give you a 3 as well. All right, next photo, Rachel. Rachel, this is a cool photo. It looks quite zoomed in or cropped to compose it this way, and I don't know if it's just the upload quality, but it's very pixely. And I like seeing the trees, and I'm probably going to see a lot of photos of just trees, just leaves. I'm looking forward to them, but I'm also looking forward to a photo that tells more of a story with either a subject or just a very interesting composition. So on this photo, to improve it, what I would have done is, it looks like you're zoomed in very far already or cropped in. So maybe it's just changing your position when you're photographing this. See the branches coming in from the top left of the frame. I don't like how they are here in this photo. They kind of like are like a distraction. However, I could see that if you had positioned yourself, imagine you're where Rachel was standing, and then you move to the left and up a little bit. You hold your camera up, and you're shooting more through those like the leafless branches, and you're just looking tight on these leaves, this kind of palette of colors. That could have been a cool shot. So I'm going to give Rachel a 2 on this one, just because I think that I would have rather had a more interesting subject in front of or amidst this scene, as well as, or alternatively, just some more creative composition. All right. Emanuele, let's go. I love the birds. And, you know, I've seen a lot of birds in this change of seasons. I've been following the birds, and I ID them with my app called Merlin. And there's these birds called the white-crowned sparrows. I call them the bike helmet bird because it looks like they have bike helmets. Let me see if I can put up a photo. And what's amazing is I'm in Southern California, and these birds come all the way from Alaska, and they're only here during this time of year. And so doesn't it look like they're wearing like a bike helmet? My wife Isabel is always like, don't call them that. You need to call them by their proper name. The white-crowned sparrow is much more proper than bike helmet bird. But anyways, so I'm saying that because these photos of the birds does to me show this change in scene. Emanuele always has these cool compositions where it's weird, right? Like the center post, these angle of wires up at the top. It's like not balanced or typical, but it looks really cool. And I actually really like this photo. I like that there's the 2 birds. Just something about like 2 birds is better than 1 bird in a photo sometimes. It's a little dark. You added like some color grading, color effects to get this like sort of muted brownish, maroonish tone to it. But like it's a really cool kind of street shot actually. And I promise it's not just for the birds. I'm going to give this one a 4. I just find it a little bit more interesting. Miriam, yes. Zebra head. Yeah, I like that. And Miriam, I totally appreciate the comment. I started doing the frame by frame and like told myself I'm going to do this weekly. I'm going to make it into like more of a show, which to me motivates me to come back and do this every week. And I'm so glad that you guys are appreciating it. My goal is to help you, and it sounds like this is helpful. So thank you so much. All right, Bob with our first leaf shot. I know we're going to see a lot. Nice choice of a leaf. I think I'm going to be critical, Bob, because I know you can take it. I like the colors. I like exposure's a little dark overall, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think if we're going to take a photo of just a single leaf, we have to really figure out how can we compose this leaf to be like the star of the show, the like one thing that just like make it shine. And I guess I'm wondering if there was another leaf that looked the same, where see how there's like leaves on the top, like coming from the sides and behind this leaf. Like, I don't know, part of me like doesn't want to like see those in a shot like this where you're highlighting one leaf. That's just my opinion. And of course, this is just, I don't want you to like be tearing off leaves to create that shot, but maybe you could have found one leaf that stood out a bit more. Maybe it's like the branch that it's coming from, like kind of distracts from the background. We're always talking about with portraits, pay attention to your background. Don't have like sticks or tree branches or telephone poles coming out from behind your subject's head. And I think the same thing goes here with this photo of our portrait of this leaf. So Bob, I think I'm going to give you a 2. I think I know the photo itself is nice. The technical thing is good. It's probably a 2 leaning 3 for me. And I think that it could just, maybe even if it was flipped upside down, I don't know. Maybe there's just something about it that I think could improve. If you have thoughts about this photo on improving this one, let Bob know in the chat if you have any other ideas. Hong, I love seeing all of you participating in the weekly challenges. It's great. All right, so here we have a beautiful scene with these gorgeous trees that are turning this gold yellow. And I see some subjects in the distance. I like it. I'm wondering if you desaturated the mountains behind these trees, or if it's just the natural shadow that was behind these trees that kind of create a desaturated background. I think I almost would like to be tighter on this. Like, I don't care about those mountains that are taking up about 1/3 to almost a half of the frame at the top. And I also think there's an opportunity to like be cropped in really tight right in the middle of that frame, where you still see like the tops of the trees and the reflection, which is beautiful, but you see the subjects in there clearly, which is really hard to see right now. And again, you might not have had a lens that allowed you to do that. That's just me being a critique after the fact. But overall, like, this is a great location. I think just it's the crop and composition that I think could be improved. So I'm going to give this a 3. Being a little tough today with my ratings, but I think, yeah, I think I would crop in, zoom in a little bit, get rid of the top, the bottom. This also lends itself to a nice like panoramic crop of just the trees as well. Maybe even just cropping it like that would have helped for me. All right. Next photo from Very. I saw this one pop up, Very. I really like this one. Another, like, what is this? Triple exposure? Something like that. Really cool with, and again, the way you compose your subject, the person in the double exposure, which I'm assuming was in camera because that's usually what you do, but you compose it so that the highlight is on her face and you can see it clearly. It's not like being covered by these leaves and flowers that you're double exposing. This is one of my favorite photos that you've posted in a while, Very. So really good job. I'm trying to think of anything I would do to knock it down from a 5. So I can't really think of anything. It's such a creative idea. It's when I see a photo like this, 9 layers. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Magenta Bear Thomas. Thomas, I can call you Thomas now. You're not just Magenta Bear to me. When you see a photo so unique, like Emma says, it's hard to critique it. So I am going to give this a 5 out of 5. Very good job. I think this might be my first 5 for you in a frame by frame. I'm not sure. But man, yeah, just super cool. And just the colors, the gold colors are wacky. I would like to know, did you adjust the colors in camera, like, or your settings in camera to make it more gold? Or was it just photographing things that had like a more goldish yellow tone to it that made it like this? Very good job. Peter, ooh, this is fun. I love benches. There's something about benches, empty benches, people sitting on benches that really just I love. I don't know. Is anyone else like that? I feel like the idea of a bench is just something cool. Have you guys heard of this podcast called Strangers on a Bench? So it's this podcast by this British guy who he just goes up to random strangers and asks if he could talk to them. And the conversations like get really deep really fast. And it's a very like easy listen, although it does get a bit deep. So if you're looking for a good podcast, check out Strangers on a Bench. But anyways, it reminds me of that podcast, and it reminds me in film school, I wanted to make a short film about a bench somehow, and with the bench being like the main subject. And I did sort of like a little experimental film, but I have always thought like I could go back to that idea. And I love Miriam, post that in the announcement. Post a comment on the idea thread for challenges, and I'll throw that in for next year. I love that idea. Yes, true. If there was a bird on the bench or a cat, 5 out of 5, maybe 6 out of 5. But anyways, this photo is really nice. Creative composition to like tilt down and get a lot of foreground on the street covered with the leaves, which I think tells the story of this quite a bit. Is it too much foreground? No, maybe not. I think it's pretty solid. Maybe like a hint. I kind of want to be like 2 or 3 feet closer. That's like about 1 meter for you normal people who don't use feet and inches. About a meter closer. And I think you would see the bench a little clearer, but still have like the tilt and the foreground how it is. But I also think if you did that, the framing of the trees behind the bench, it looks like it's almost like this path in between, and it would create an almost better frame within a frame around the bench. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to be there to see exactly how it is. But it's a solid 4 for me. Lovely textures of all the leaves on the ground. And it's like this beauty that you find amongst just normal day things, even leaves that are, disintegrating, trampled on the ground. For Very's photo, she mentioned that everything was in camera, film simulation similar to Kodachrome. Chose the layers based on the colors. Very cool. Very cool. Very, very cool. All right, so Peter, 4. Good job. All right, Paul Anderson. This is a fly on a plant. That's at first I thought it was like a grapevine. It looks like some sort of berry bush or vine maybe, but it has thorns. So I don't know what that is. It's a cool photo. There's a hint of seasonal changes. Maybe the seasonal change is like that the plant is starting to die, the leaves are shriveling. So yeah, I guess at first I didn't really see that because there's so much green that I'm not seeing the seasonal change as much. But this is one where I think the fly, even though it's not like the prettiest subject, it adds so much to this photo. Without that fly being there, it would just be this kind of like, okay, this is a photo of like these leaves, these branches, but like not really anything to focus on. And so the fly in the middle draws you in. So for everyone watching this, I think that's probably my biggest feedback on like improving a photo like this, or just any photo, is like even amongst a beautiful scene, sometimes, not always, sometimes it's better to have some sort of subject in the middle of that scene. Not in the middle, but just in the scene that you're photographing, that becomes that focal point for the viewer to look at. So I'm going to give this a 3. It's a solid photo. I think my critique is that maybe it doesn't show the seasonal change as much as I want it to. maybe, yeah, I don't know. Maybe even in this situation, I mean, the fly is going to be there for 2 seconds, so you can't really tell the fly what to hold on. I need to change my angle, but like changing the angle so that you're seeing more of the dead leaves, or like the leaves that are dying, and making those more prominent might be something that could have improved this. Still, beautiful photo, nice edit, nice colors. I think the only thing for me is that, does it show seasonal change as much as it could? Anita Joshi, pumpkins. Pumpkins are great. It's like a seasonal thing, holiday thing. You got the colors in the background that are nice. I like the subject. I think the composition I'm not 100% about. Like, I'd rather be closer to those pumpkins in the foreground and not have them like cut off at the bottom. Or even if you were closer and had some pumpkins cut off at the bottom, like have one row like a bit closer to the frame. This is one of those times where, you know, if you take our classes, if you listen to us long enough, you know what Will will say about this. He'll say, don't put the camera where your eyes are. And this is a photo where it looks like you kind of were just standing there. And not that that's bad all the time, but just to be a little bit more creative, I think putting your camera down at like your knee level, your shins or something would have helped this photo quite a bit. Lovely location, edit's nice, colors are nice. I think it's just the composition and the crop. I think you probably could have come up with something a lot more creative. Like, look at those pumpkins in the background. That, like, there's that one stand in the kind of in the middle of the frame, and you see all the trees in the background that are also changing color. But those are so far in the background you can't really see it. But what if you were standing right in front of that pile, and if you had a lens that you could like zoom in to compress the background so that those trees are like compressed closer up to the pumpkins, and so you have like these pumpkins, and then right behind it this like nice background of all the trees. Something I'm just imagining could have been kind of a better shot, or a more interesting shot. So Anita, apologies for the 2, but I'm gonna give it a 2. I think you could work on the composition a little bit better. All right, hopefully that helps though. Peter, another Peter, some trees. And this one's actually not bad. It's that's probably like the worst thing you want to hear. This is not bad. No, let me start that over. I actually really like the idea of this because you see the change of the trees. It looks like you did a bit of desaturating of the trunks and underneath, or maybe you picked specific colors to desaturate, because on the ground it looks a little splotchy in terms of the saturation. I could be wrong, and sometimes I'm wrong with these things, but it just looks like something was desaturated and it looks edited that way. For this photo, I would almost have just cropped tight up to the leaves, and I don't need to see the trunks down below or the ground down below, just to have this nice sort of palette of colors. I like the gradient that you get with the green, orange, red, yellow, green. That's really nice. But yeah, I think there's something about the saturation at the bottom and just that framing of the ground. I don't know if it's necessary. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you agree, or if you like the foreground, or not the foreground, but like the bottom underneath the trees being seen. It's a little dark too. I would boost that saturation, or not the saturation, the exposure just a little bit. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I think it does really do well at showing the seasonal changes. It's a perfect subject for this. So yeah. All right, Alan, a road, some beautiful trees. Yeah, it's pretty neat. You definitely get it's the right challenge photo for the challenge. I like the I like the road and the leading lines that can create. I'm almost wondering what it would have been like to be at the opposite end of this road looking back at these trees, so that the leading line of the road leads your eye to these trees. I like kind of like the framing of it kind of overhanging a bit. Maybe I would have like pushed myself to the left even a bit more so that the trees overhung the photo even more and really created like more of a frame of this road. I think that could have been really cool. Everything's in focus, which is nice. Yeah, I think I would have played around with like where I was standing just to change it, see if there was another sort of composition from this angle. But overall, like, nice photo, nice colors, nice edit. Nothing really wrong with it. I just think you could probably get a little bit more creative with the composition. Don Pole, photo of the American flag, some flowers. This looks like at a cemetery with the trees in the background. Nice. Yeah, I like that idea of like a subject in the foreground with the seasonal change in the background. Maybe boost the exposure up a little bit in the foreground. Also maybe play with the white balance. It's super cool because of the shadow, which is fine, but maybe warm it up just a tidbit. Just a little tidbit. So exposure up for the foreground, warm it up just a little bit. And yeah, part of me like, do I want to see the headstone of this headstone? That's what it's called, right? Or maybe I want to like crop in just a little bit so I'm not seeing any of it, and it just creates this sort of like other texture kind of in the background more. It's almost like it's in the frame, wants to be in the frame, but not exactly sure if it should be. You probably could have put the camera down a little bit, even lower might have been interesting. And that would have put like try to get the whole American flag up into the, like, in front of the background of this beautiful tree. Just ideas. Feels a little tilted. I think it's because the pot of those flowers is tilted, and maybe that makes me think like the ground is tilted. I don't know if the flowers tilted or not, but like also with like the flagpole kind of going up to the left, there's something about it that feels like I'm about to fall to the left, or maybe the flowers and the flag are about to fall to the left. I think I'm doing it the wrong way in the video, but this way. But really beautiful photo. 3.5. Can I do the 3 and the 4 at the same time? 3.5, that's what I would do. I think it's like storytelling wise, it's really good. Also, you know, there's that deeper meaning of seasonal change, death, being in a cemetery. That's like pretty profound too. But Don, really, really nice idea. Nice photo. Emma's here. Emma, you've been smashing it with your weekly challenges, and this is another really solid one. The lighting is like wild on this. Like, you did I don't know how much editing you did, but it's very nice, sort of flat, not flat, but like everything's exposed pretty well, almost as if it was like an HDR photo. And I like this is an interesting photo because I love a lot about it. I love the mountains in the top. I love the road in the bottom right. Part of me wants to be a little wider so that road, or maybe you move to the left or something so that road can be a little bit more a part of the frame and not so squished over to the side. But just overall, this looks like I'm like about to go on an adventure with Frodo to save the ring or whatever. And the colors are nice too. Very nice palette of colors. A little desaturated. I don't know. Did you desaturate things? I feel like it could almost be saturated a little bit more, honestly, to bring out some of the colors. Yeah, really nice palette. I think I would probably have tried to... Yeah, I think the one thing that bugs me is that road looks so cool. And in the bottom right, it's like going through these cool rocks and winding. And I almost want to see that more. I want that to be more in the frame. So if there was a way to like widen out, move to the left a little bit, but still have that mountain, I don't know. Or maybe it's like going, maybe what it is if you walked to the right, you scrambled up some rocks, because I'm imagining there's like a mountain right there, and you're looking a little bit more down on the scene from the right, from the right of where you were standing here, and you still get those mountains, but you see a bit more of that cool road. I don't know, but it's cool how it is too. And maybe bring the camera down a little bit, but I don't know. It's really good, Emma. I'm just being picky at this point. So I'm going to give you a 4. I think it's like solid 4. Probably one of my favorites that I'll see today. All right, Thomas. Thomas is up. Thomas with the tank engine coming through. This is a nice photo. Lovely depth of field. Frame within a frame. The colors, it is seasonal change. I think like my only critique is like if you could go back and do this again and the colors of the trees had changed just a little bit more, because it is starting to change. Don't get me wrong. It's starting to change, but it's I imagine this location probably looks better with each day that passes, and the leaves colors change even more. If I want to be super picky, there's like that bush in the foreground. I actually don't like that. Like, and maybe like that foreground element, if it was a little bit to the left, or maybe that means you sticking yourself out in the way of the train, before it comes and runs you over, just to the right, just a little bit more. So that little bush in the bottom left is not like covering the train. But this is like one of those like iconic photos of like, I think we've seen photos like this, right? I've seen photos like this. But I've never taken a photo of a train coming down the tracks with the steam blowing and nice framing within a frame. I like the center. What lens were you on? Because the focus is really cool. And another question is, did you play around with any like blurring after the fact to get like a blur around the edge, which is a cool technique if you used it, or if it's just your lens, it looks really good. So I would give this... Thomas wants me to be more critical. I know you want me to be critical, but dude, this is like a 5 to me. I think the 4... Okay, I'm not going to give you a 5. I'm going to give you a 4 because the colors of the leaves weren't as changey as I want them to be for this challenge. But otherwise, this photo by itself is great. I like the soft colors you have. It was the 135 f1.8 cropped a lot. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, that's why you have that really nice focus. It's like a longer telephoto lens. And at f1.8, super sharp focus on our subject of the train. Very cool. So 4, just because you can, I don't know, the trees. All right, let's go. Priya. Now it's getting a little warm in here, so let's take off the sweater, actually. Apologies. Don't mind me. All right, so let's go. Priya. Khatri. Picture of a tree with some leaves. Yeah, I mean, it's leaves, nice colors. This one, there's so much going on compared when I'm thinking back to Bob's photo of just the one leaf, where I was like kind of being picky about soloing the one leaf without much in the background. I actually don't mind this one as much for what it is. It's just like so many leaves with the background. The colors are really nice. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3. It's one of those ones where there's not too much for me to say, because it's not like there's a subject that, you know, you could have composed differently within the scene. It's interesting. Is it like the most interesting? No, but it's still a nice photo. So yeah, solid 3. Miriam, more leaves changing. Same thing, like nice photo. I like the focus being on the leaves that have changed colors. I think Luna's videos, Suzanne, I think that was a 4 for that one. So Priya, you get a 4 from Luna's videos. Thank you for that. Miriam, I actually really like the color palette here. It's like desaturated a lot of like the yellows and reds, and you just have this like green. And maybe you didn't do that in post, but maybe that's just how it is. Oh my gosh, is this Miriam? Is this yours? And is your name wrong? I don't do this. I don't want to blame my assistant, but is it the same thing that happened? I'm so sorry. That's so embarrassing. All right, here you are. I'm gonna put you right here. Cover that up, Miriam. There we go. Yeah, so really nice colors and focus. I love the bokeh you get in the bottom with the lights behind. But sorry, I'm so sorry about that. It's embarrassing. But yeah, I think again, it's a similar only critique is it like the most interesting to look at? Is there a subject that's like super captivating? Not necessarily, but like for what it is, it's a good photo, and it's a great photo. It's like sharp. I kind of like the focus being in the top left. It's nice and like not negative spacey, but rule of thirds, and it shows that seasonal change. This could be a nice like background, backdrop, desktop backdrop, phone backdrop, texture that is a part of a series or something like that. So I think I'm going to give it a 3, just for the same reason I gave the last one a 3. 3, 4, 3.5. Yeah. I think in terms of colors, focus, everything's great. It sounds like everyone's liking this though. Love the colors. So we'll push you up to a 4. And I'm not just saying that. That's actually, I actually like this photo. The bokeh you get in the back and the colors and the focus is really nice. Sharon Sanic. Sharon, I believe I remember your photo from last time. I like the idea of a leaf on the ground. For this one, I probably would have just, since it's on the ground, moved one of those just to have the one photo. I would have shot down top down looking at it. And the skinny crop, I don't know what the reasoning behind this like super skinny crop, vertical crop was. I probably would have like cropped tighter like a square or just standard like 3:2 or 5:7 crop aspect ratio just to be closer to that leaf. I think for this photo, the point is to see the colors of the leaf and the textures, and then you also have this really cool texture in the background. But I'm distracted by that little, it looks like a frog statue at the very bottom that's overexposed and creates like a shadow. So I think this is a case where you could have gone in there and moved things around or moved the leaf to a spot where it has flatter lighting, no shadows, and you really could see those textures nicely. So I'm going to give it a 2. Subject's great. Seasonal change, great. I like the idea of it being on top of a texture. But composition, crop, I think I would change and get closer to that leaf so that you can really see those details. I'm not sure what camera you're using, but maybe it's even in post, like bring up the texture, bring up the sharpness or details to try to make those textures pop a bit more. All right, let's go. All right. Gosh, time goes on. I'm gonna start speeding up a bit. If you have your photo and you need me to give more details, let me know. Paige, this is an awesome photo. What a cool structure. What a cool texture. Focus. Everything's in focus. I love it. That water going around on the left adds something to this with the blue, the rocks. I love everything about this photo. It's very cool. So I'm going to give it a 5. And I think it's just not the luck, but the ability to take a photo of this subject in this setting. You know, it's kind of like, well, that's awesome. Like, I don't have anything like this that I can go like walk to and take a photo of for this weekly challenge, but this is just amazing. Jolene. Focus is a bit off. Subject is nice, the choice, but the focus is off. And maybe for this photo, I don't know if you were driving, maybe you were driving by, because it almost looks like you might be on a road and you're driving by and you get a little motion blur rather than just the focus being off. This is one, if I was here, I would have like probably stopped, lined up the trees at the very bottom of the frame and got like a ton of negative space rather than being tilted down and seeing that grass with like the top of like these posts and the brown grass at the very bottom. Get super flat, more negative space. The subject's nice, but I think just because the focus issue or the blur, it's hard to like, yeah, it's just hard to see what the textures and the beauty that is here. So unfortunately, I'm going to give this one a 1, and I want to do that to push you. If you live near this place, go take that photo again and play around with the composition. Take the time to like stop, get out, walk around, try to compose it in a more interesting way and lock down those settings to get it in focus. David, very okay, so like this is like a great example of like what I expected from this challenge. Leaves changing, and this one has a good texture. And I think this is one we could learn from if we go back to Sharon's. David photographs this one. The lighting plays a part in it. The lighting on the leaves is really nice. Maybe it's partly the editing, but boosting the exposure of the leaves. Colors are great. Textures are great. And then you also have this nice background texture. Solid 4 for me. Yeah, just really nice, nice edit, and nice photos. Nice leaves, rather. And I like this one. It's one little bunch. It's not one leaf, but it's a bunch of leaves, but it's just composed nicely kind of in the center of this texture. So solid 4. Todd. Always impressed with Todd's landscapes. So I'm not surprised that he has a really cool photo here. I really like the gradients you get here. I think the lighting of the trees in the background is natural, like a spot of sunlight. I don't know if it is. Like, part of me wonders if this was like, it looks almost like a gradient or like a radial filter where like you have parts in the background at the top brighter and then like a shadow over the foreground. And that could have totally been what it looked like naturally. So I'm being picky, Todd, because this is a really cool photo, but I do think like the overall exposure of the foreground, which is the bulk of the photo, meaning like the bottom 2/3 is a little dark. I kind of want it to be a little brighter, but I think this is your style, Todd. You have a little bit of a lower exposure style, and I'm starting to like learn all of your styles of photography, which is cool. But like in terms of seasonal change, this is great. So I think out of all the photos, this is a solid 4 for me. I'm just not sure about the exposure, maybe playing around with the exposure, or maybe even creating another spot of sunlight on that little patch at the bottom. Like that could have been a creative edit to like balance the spot of sunlight at the top. Try doing that in Lightroom and create a highlight. That, I mean, some people might not agree with that. They might want to just go with whatever was natural, but that might be an idea to kind of balance out the exposure being so bright on the top and then kind of dark on the bottom. Celeste, flowers are cool. Nice photo. Like, does it show seasonal change? Maybe the bees come at a certain time of the season, the flowers bloom at a certain time of the season, so maybe it does. I think the saturation is a little low for me. It looks desaturated. I would just boost the colors, maybe even those specific pink and the green itself, just to boost those a little bit. Maybe creating a little bit more contrast too with the exposure. It's still a beautiful photo and lovely textures, lovely patterns, and just the focus is really nice. Bees are hard to photograph. Like the whole bee's head is in this flower, which is cool. Part of me wants to like be able to see the full bee, like a split second before this or a split second after this, like as it right about to enter the flower, but that's just takes time, patience, and going out and getting lucky to get that shot. So I think my biggest critiques are saturation to me is a little bit low, and not sure if it like really hits the seasonal change enough for me. All right, Colette, you're up. This is a nice location. I want to go there. Nice. So this is like a cool dock on the river. It's a wider shot, which is cool. Overall, it's like very one tone. Like the exposure is like generally the same across, which maybe there's an opportunity to boost the contrast a bit so that the colors get more punchier, the contrast gets more punchier, the shadows, highlights get more punchier. So maybe in editing, there's a way to do that, to make it like pop a bit more. And then compositionally, I see the hints of a reflection. I don't know if this was an option, but if you had gotten down lower to the water and been more level with that little dock, I think you would have and gotten just closer to the water, you might have had a cooler reflection coming at you in the water, like taking up more of the frame. An idea, but it's a photo that makes me want to go there. Just sit out there, listen to the birds, and my cat strolls up, hops on my lap. The kids are playing quietly. Yeah, that's truly a dream. That ain't reality. Colette says, I couldn't get lower as was on a bridge. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's me being a Monday night quarterback. Of course I have these ideas, but yeah, really nice location. I'm thinking it's like a 3.4, 3.5, 4 as well. I think the flat edit maybe looks a little too flat to me for this photo. I want to make those colors pop, but Yeah, pretty good. I'm almost like also like I'm just putting my hands up like this. Maybe like even like a portrait crop, like just cropping out the sides a bit and focusing in on the dock, and then you have like this cool gradient of the leaves and then the gradient of the reflection in the water. That's kind of cool. Just an idea. All right, David Parkinson. All right, we got the seasonal change of this tree. This is one where I would have tried to probably get down and use the tree more as a frame of something in the background. You have like, looks like this pond in the background, some cool reflection. Maybe there's something in there where if you got down lower, you get frame within the frame of these leaves that are changing colors, but also like a cool reflection in the pond right in the middle. Maybe, I don't know. I think for this photo itself or this subject, if you were just trying to photograph that sort of bunch of leaves or the tree, this tree, I would have got tighter. I would have just filled the frame with those leaves, gotten all that texture and all that color in the frame. So I'm going to give it a 2 for this photo. Yeah, I think play around with exposures as well. It's a little bit, I think because it's in the shadow, it's a little underexposed. Again, if I got tighter on those leaves, I would have exposed to the leaves, because right now your camera is trying to expose to everything, which makes the leaves in the shadows. Or flip, go around the other side of the tree so that the sunlight is just shining directly on the leaves so that you could really get those exposed brighter without the shadows. David, another part, looks like same David. So cool photo. I like the crop a little bit better. I'm not going to spend much time on this because I asked you guys to post one photo. I'd probably give that one a 3 just because the angle is nice. I'd play around with the exposures though. All right, Caesar. The jacaranda or jacaranda trees are so beautiful with those purple leaves. This is an opportunity to step right in the middle of that street, get the frame within the frame, leading lines of this street. You got this couple with their dog walking in the center. So I feel like this is a little bit of a missed opportunity, shooting from the side of the street, kind of at an angle. I mean, maybe there's like a way to do that, but like even more at an angle or something, but like you're so close to like just being able to step into the middle of the street and having this like beautiful, dreamy archway of these trees, that I think that's what you should, if you have a chance to go back here and do that, take that photo and post it, because I would love to see it. I would do a 3 for this just because I love those trees so much. Probably boost the exposure just a little bit. It's a little dark overall. Priyadarshan. This is a cool landscape. It doesn't really show seasonal change to me, but of course this is in a different place than I know, and I don't know what seasonal change looks like here. If you watch this, or it probably is up on the weekly challenge, I'm curious where this is. It's super hazy. This is a hard photo because this landscape I think could look amazing on a day where there wasn't as much haze, so that you could really see the texture in the mountains in the distance. So I'm gonna give this one a 2 just for that. But yeah, I don't know. The clouds do seem very close. That's cool. They look like cotton candy too. Ooh, wow, this is cool. This looks like a bit of a, is that a double exposure or a long exposure? It looks like a double exposure, and it creates this impressionist style tree that I really love. And I'm going to give it a 4. I think that's super creative, and you can tell what it is, so it's not like too abstract. And I like the colors. I like the composition, rule of thirds of it's on kind of on the side. Yeah, very cool. Ooh, Martina, I like this photo. So, you know, getting the tree, getting the whole tree, that's the subject. So we're going to get the tree. I really like that, kind of looking up at this photo, at this tree. Yeah, no, it's really good. I think oh, Rosemary, you're here. I kind of went so quickly over your photo, but it's really cool. I really like it. I don't have like many critiques about it at all. Martina, yeah, good photo. Like if I compare it to some of these others that I've given a 4, I don't know if it is a 4 for me. It's like a solid 3. Hits the mark on seasonal change. I like the composition. I like the lighting's pretty good. Maybe play around with the contrast a little bit more, or trying to get more texture out of those leaves, but I dig it. I think it's a good photo. All right, Annette. Michael Siegel. People won't get better if they think their photos are good. Well, that's your opinion. Yeah, I mean, if you think a photo is not a 3, then you can share your comments. Also, as I mentioned at the beginning, if things hit the mark with the challenge, if it hits the weekly challenge, if it's composed well, if it technically is well, I'm gonna give it a 3. So you can share your comments though, of course. All right, this photo of Annette's, I don't know if is that a jacaranda tree as well. If again, comparing the photos, which I don't always like to do, the other one, much more of a interesting composition that Caesar had potentially with like the archway. Here, it's just the tree itself. I would have tried to like compose something about this tree differently. Maybe it's like getting super close up to the leaves on the ground and focusing on those leaves with the tree out of focus in the background, or getting super close up to one of those branches where the leaves are coming down and you're focused on those leaves, or kind of like we saw the one previously where you get under and you just look straight up and you see like this cool textures of the branches. So I think, again, you're shooting the photo from eye view, and that's fine, but I think you could get a little bit more creative with this one, Annette. So I'm going to push you to try to do that. Not sure if you can go back to this tree, but if there's another one like it, try to compose a different part of the tree, get a creative with your angles, something just a little bit different. Ooh, Natalia, moody, cool textures, love the colors. I know some people are not gonna love this photo, but I really love this photo. I kind of wish it was flipped upside down, or it was a little tighter on the leaf or something, or just the top, or not the top, but the bottom was cropped up just a little bit. There's something, I mean, I can tell it's like hanging down, so that's probably natural, but the texture is amazing. Do you want to boost the exposure? Yeah, if you want the thing to be like standard exposure, but like I love the darkness that you see in this photo, and to me this is actually a 5. So really cool photo, Natalia. Yeah, love that photo. All right, Alan Smith. So this is a bit more of a creative composition or angle, getting close to the tree, looking up at the leaves. It kind of like, if you didn't have the tree trunk and the branches, it almost looks like raindrops of leaves falling on you, which is kind of cool. I kind of want to be a little bit closer to some leaves. So like if there were a couple that were like closer up and bigger in the frame, I think that would have been cool just to be able to see those textures. But the edit's nice too, because you have like a super dark branch tree trunk, and really what you're highlighting is just those yellow leaves. So this one, probably like a 3-ish, 2, maybe 3. It's like, I think you could probably get a little bit more creative, not creative, but like do something to really like highlight one of those leaves within this a little bit better, which I think would have been nice, but it's cool. It's creative. I'll give you that for the creative angle. All right, Otto. This is a cool photo of these changing trees. The foreground, do I like the foreground? Yes. I think it could work. I think I want to either, I don't know. Maybe I probably would have gone close up to that water and put my camera right above the water and just gotten that reflection with the trees without the foreground. Or I would have like stood right behind those leaves or the grass in the foreground and had it like more frame the whole bottom of the photo. I don't know. It's the subject is awesome. The fact that there's water there that you can get a reflection on is awesome. I think there's an opportunity to compose it a little bit better or more creatively. Like you have that person walking in the background with their dog. Again, if you were closer to the water, big reflection in the foreground, frames with these trees in the background with like the person walking right in the middle of those like a couple of the trees, waiting for that right moment might have added a bit to this. So I don't know. I'm gonna give it a 3 because it's composed. It's okay. It's like pretty good composition, nice reflection, nice location. Edits good. Yeah, nothing wrong with the edit of the colors and exposures. Ooh, Suzanne, I liked this photo. I saw this. This is super cool photo. I love the texture you get with the spider web and the droplets. So cool. My only thing is does it and there's that bridge in the background, which is so cool. So the location's sweet. Like you found this cool photo, this cool thing in this location. Is it seasonal changes? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. It's like a cloudy morning, kind of interesting seasonal change. For the photo itself, this is like a 5 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 4 just because I don't know if it's seasonal change as much as it could have been, but really good photo. Lovely colors, lovely focus, lovely focus, exposure, and colors. Phil, just an idea. Maybe you could try a playful, sarcastic, rude service style restaurant style frame by frame session as a light-hearted one-off. I think I would need to get like an actor to come in here and do that. And it's just not my style. The backlighting is awesome on this too. You don't get this photo without that beautiful backlighting. All right, Carl. Love the rainbow. Cool composition. Not seasonal change to me though. I guess. Like, I don't know. Again, like to each their own on what is a seasonal change. The fact that you got this rainbow with this building underneath it is super sweet, but I'm going to give it a 2 because it's, to me, not as much of a seasonal change, but still a really cool photo. Mirella, this is a nice photo of some leaves, and this is one where the focus captures the one leaf that is the star of the show very well. The colors are all very similar. It maybe is a little bit greenish, so maybe I would play around with the white balance a tiny bit, or something about it. It all feels a little yellowy greenish, but overall, like, focus is nice, textures are nice. Probably, maybe you could have gotten a little tighter in on this leaf in the middle. Your star, just highlight it even more, make it bigger in your frame, and crank that texture a little bit more. If you're editing in Lightroom or whatever tool, just crank that texture, those details just a little bit. For a photo like this, I think would help just make all those veins in that leaf stand out. So I'm going to give it a 3. It's a solid 3 leaning 4 for me. I think you could fix a few things in editing. All right, Cree Harris. Nice classic shot looking down the road. Good seasonal change for sure. A little dark. Maybe boost the shadows just a little bit. Bring some exposure there. But nice colors. Yeah, I mean, this is probably, again, you guys are doing really good on this challenge. So I'd like to be more critical. I think some people want me to be more critical, but I think it's hard for me to be critical. This is like a 4 for me. I like it. Good photo, Cree. All right. Nathan Tang, totally different seasonal change, not those fall warm colors, but we got the cherry blossoms. It's a cool tree. I think there's an opportunity to focus in on one of these little branches or one of these flowers. And if you got closer, then the background would get more out of focus, which I think would look nicer for this photo. I'm not sure what lens you were using. I don't know how close focus you have. Or if you had like a telephoto lens, you could zoom in or get tighter in on that one sort of flower in the middle. Yeah, so I mean, good exposure, good colors. I think just getting tighter on one of those flowers would improve it. Michelle Loftus. This is a photo very similar to some of the others where, you're at eye level. It's showing the seasonal change, but without a subject here in it. I'm looking for some sort of really creative composition of the trees or of the leaves, and I'm not finding it here. It's kind of at that eye level. I'm not exactly sure what I would have done in this situation myself, but unfortunately for me, there's nothing here that like stands out too much for me. I'm gonna give this one a 1, just because I think that there's lots of colors here. I'm sure there's a place close by, or even if you walked into this little forest of trees, that you could have come up with some creative composition of the trees or of the leaves or something. Abios. All right. Photo of this tree with the house. Again, sort of like eye level photo of the house. I don't know if this is your house, but if it was, I would have closed that garage door. I don't like that car kind of being there. This also would have been a cool photo if you got down close to the ground and the tree kind of overhung the frame a bit more and the whole house was kind of framed into that. Maybe like you would have to get closer to the tree or something, but it looks like you're on a pretty wide lens and you might have been able to do that. So yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 2. If I'm going faster. If you need more feedback, tag me in the comments and I'll try to provide more feedback. All right, Nayeli. We have some change of the scene. There's nothing that draws my eye to this photo. There's nothing like, I guess the mountain in the background's cool. The textures of the trees are kind of cool, but like, is that, I don't know. There's something about the flatness. It's like the colors and the exposure that are so flat that I think this scene at sunrise or sunset, it would have made the colors and the textures pop a lot more compared to photographing this at this time. So I'm gonna give this one a 2. And that's it for seasonal changes. I'm gonna keep going with the rural scenes. I'm gonna take a quick swig of coffee, and this one's gonna be a speedier round. All right, so we're gonna get through them though. Thomas got these cows. Really cool composition. Also looks like maybe you were on that 135 again. I think the white balance feels a little greeny to me, so I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I'm gonna give it a 4 though. Creative composition, nice focus on that one cow amongst these other ones, which I think is very cool. Background bokeh, nice, cool negative space to the left. I think my main thing is I think the white balance is a little off. David Austin, I saw this photo. This is one where it's like you got this subject, but it's so far away. I'm just, it's not doing it for me. Maybe there's a way to compose a subject like this with a lot of negative space at this size if you don't have like a telephoto or zoom lens. But I don't like seeing that little structure on the right hand side. I don't know what was to the left of this frame, but shifting to the left or something just to maybe that would be a little bit more creative with this composition. So I'm going to give it a 2. Bob, I thought this was a good use of finding a subject to assist with your rural scene. I probably would have moved over to the right. See how your subject is like, well, your subject's on the right side of the frame, but his body is kind of turned and facing the right side of the frame as well. I probably would have tried to frame him up so that he was more in the center of the video, or the photo. Or have him turn his body the other way so that he's facing more the 2/3 of the photo frame that's negative space. The shadow on his face, a little harsh, and on the front of his body, again, I think like backlighting is nice, but here it's kind of creating too much of a shadow on his foreground. Like subject and location is great. I just think there could have been a better way to compose him in this space. Lighting is tough though. This is a hard one. Bob, I'm gonna give you a 2. I probably will give you a 3 just because the effort it takes to get a subject here and take a photo like that. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. All right, Sandra. Good focus. Good, good-ish exposures. It's a little dark. I'd probably boost the shadows. I would want both of these to be in focus, and the one on the left is a little bit soft, I think, because you're using such a shallow depth of field. Yeah, I think the exposure, did I say good exposures? I think the exposures is my biggest critique, is that the subject is in the shadows a bit. And again, it's a little greenish. I don't know if it's just my computer, but some of these photos, I feel like the white balance looks green. Cute. These are cute cows, though. I'll give it a 3, 2.5. Ooh, Kayla, this is cool. I actually really like this composition. Sometimes these wide angle shots when the sky has these clouds like this looks really nice. I would boost the exposure though. Even though it's dark, I want to see, at least on the subject, a little bit brighter. So the subject of this tractor, maybe just put a radial filter or something so it blends in nicely, boost that exposure. But otherwise, I really like this one. It's probably a 3 leaning 4 for me. I think if you fix the exposure just a little bit, like I don't mind darkness. Kayla, were you the one that did who did the leaf, the deep red leaf? I forget who that was, but yeah, but I don't mind darkness sometimes. This time it's just a little bit too dark for me. Maria, rural scene. I see what you're going for. Everyone likes the tractor shot though. So Rosemary liked it. Celeste liked it. Luna's video liked that. Suzanne liked it. I don't like the foreground on the right. There's so much cool negative space with the cloud, the fog, and the water. I would have like really just amplified that by either cropping out that tree, or I don't know what's to the left of the frame. If it's more negative space, even better. Like if it was just like all negative space, but then just this little part of land with these, I don't know, are those cows as well or horses? I think that would have been pretty cool. So 3, I think the composition, like everything else is good, but I would get rid of that tree on the right hand side. Peter, this is a cool edit. Soft colors. I like the shadows of sunlight. Peter, was it you that had the landscape with the trees where I was talking about the highlight of the light? Maybe you're adding these in post because it seems like a similar kind of edit. I like this one a lot better. It focuses our eyes on the subject of this building. I like, it looks like you decreased the clarity, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to give it a 4 solid photo. Colette, cool waterfall. Lovely scene. I think you could edit this photo to improve it. I think you could probably increase or like do a little dehaze if you're using Lightroom, or increase the clarity, or just playing around with the contrast, especially with the trees and this mountain and waterfall, just because it all looks a little hazy and flat. And I think if you boost that contrast, it would do well. Another one where I almost think you could like crop the sides out and just have this like portrait photo of this waterfall with the cows in the foreground would have looked cool. So 3, because it's a really great location, and I know you could edit it to make it a 4, if not a 5. All right, Jolene. I love the cows. This is tough because the shadows are so dark and the background is so bright. Yeah, so this is a tough one. I think you're battling that element, and I don't know if like earlier in the day, the shadows are kind of cool of the cows, but like because that foreground is so dark, I'm not a huge fan of that dark foreground in this photo anyways. I kind of want it to be, and you could probably bring that up, warm it up a bit because it's very cool with like a linear gradient. It's a cool location. I think there's ways to like photograph this scene a little bit more, a little better. I see water there. Could you get a reflection? The barn's there, but it's kind of off to the right hand side. Could you have moved to the left and had that barn be more part of the scene? I'm not sure, but just an idea. All right, Michelle. Love the idea of the cows. I like the pattern of the cows, but none of them are really in focus. Maybe the first one's in focus, but their head is cropped. And so this is a time where I like the framing within the frame idea of the leaves, but the exposure is a bit bright. You get some overexposed bits. So bring down those highlights and then wait for a moment and play with the focus to get the cow, probably the one in the middle, like that second one back. If its head was a little up, and wait for that moment, snap it so that it's perfectly in focus, play around with that. Ideas there. Going to give it a 2 because I think you didn't execute as well as you could have. But I like the attempt. I really like that framing here. It's just waiting for the moment, tweaking the exposures, and getting the focus right. Well, this is a lovely scene. Not much going on here. Okay, let me start that over. Not much going on. There's a lot going on here. You got these sheep in this beautiful scene, but it's not like there's one main sheep. It's not like you're creatively composing with leading lines or foreground elements or super shallow depth of field, but it's still kind of like a nice, just general scenery. So it's one of those scenes you drive by, you see it, and it's like you captured that moment. I think there's probably a way to get more creative with the composition somehow, but for what it is, for a shot that is shot at eye level ish, it's pretty nice. And it kind of reminds me of like a painting. So I kind of want to give this one a 4 actually, because I like it. And that's like, maybe it's just my preference that I like this kind of photo. Even though I think there's a lot of opportunities to get super creative with composition and stuff. All right, Paul Anderson. Nice little cityscape overview. It's nice. Maybe I'm looking for more contrast, more saturation in the color, especially in like those fall colors of the reds and yellows. I see this one church kind of steeple in the bottom left, kind of peeking out. Maybe there was an opportunity to like use a zoom lens or something, zoom in a bit. So that's taking up more of the frame. You're a little bit tighter on this town because right now you're kind of like really far away and it's like a nice scene. Again, I think it's very similar to the other one with the sheep where it's like probably a way to get creative with some composition, but it is a nice scene. I'm going to give you a 3. I mean, it fits the challenge, nice focus, nice colors. All right, Peter. Yeah, I mean, is it a roll scene? I don't know. It looks like a sunset, right? Maybe sunset, maybe sunrise. That sun is going down over the distance. I think a photo like this, I want something more. I want like a silhouette or some I see like some foreground elements. They're so out of focus that you can't really see them. Maybe I want to just center this sun. I'm going to get it a 2. I think even just cropping it and centering the sun would make it more abstract and cleaner and more balanced. Yeah. All right, Zero Cool. I don't think I've seen a photo from Zero Cool before. Ooh, this is cool. Cool location. I don't know where this is, but really interesting layers. There's something going on at the top of the frame in those mountains. It almost looks like something on your lens or something that's like bugging me. But aside from that, I really like the foreground. I might tilt down a bit more. Like I get what you're doing with like the negative space of putting the structure on these hills so far down in the frame, but I kind of want to see more of it. And I think if you did that, I would have probably given this a 5, maybe a 4. But like, yeah, I think because some of these structures in the bottom are being cropped out, I'm wanting to see more of them. Maybe a 4 for this one. Maybe a 4. It's a pretty cool photo. Nice focus, nice layering. Maybe use the healing brush to like fix those little splotches at the top. Barry, I love this photo. I love the action. I love the centering. I love the leading lines that draw our eye to this character in the middle of our frame. Great focus, great moment. Takes a lot of effort to get a photo like this, a lot of skill to be able to focus sharp. Great shutter speed. Colors are nice. I like the soft palette. 5 out of 5 for me, Barry. I love this photo. All right, Anita. This is an interesting photo of a cool old building. The horse is framed amidst this tree. Without the horse there, I'm like, The horse adds a bit, but it's also so far away in the shadows that it's still, I feel like I feel like this tree is blocking that building. I don't know. It's like I want to see more of the building. Do I? Do I not? The horse is so in the shadows. I'd probably boost the exposure of the shadows just a bit. Maybe it's like if I had a different lens, getting tighter on that horse, still with this rural structure in the background might have helped. There's a lot of elements here to play with, and it's like I'm not sure exactly what it would be to get a better photo here. I'm gonna give it a 2. It's just, I don't know. I feel like that's being harsh on Anita, but there's something not hitting right for me for that photo. All right, Celeste, this is a fun photo. I like the black and white choice. I think this is the first black and white photo we've seen today from both of these challenges. Simple, but the focus is nice. The composition is nice. Great framing. I mean, it's not as epic as the kid jumping photo, but it's pretty up there. So I'm going to give this one a 4. Nice textures of this little wooden dollhouse amidst the grass. Emma. This is a cool photo. Great framing. It's a little soft. I think it's a little soft. I don't know if it's just on my screen and you have the photo so you can tell me, but it is so close to being like a perfect photo with the framing of these flowers, framing this goat. I don't know, what is that? Like a mountain goat with its cool horns. I think the exposure on the goat could probably be boosted just a little bit on the face, or maybe the contrast. I mean, this is your style of edit. It's very like sort of not super contrasty, but I would probably boost the contrast overall just a little bit. Maybe warm it up just a tiny bit. It looks a little green. And I think maybe it's the focus is on the eyes is just slightly off. But I'm going to give it a 4 because it's still like, it's close. It's close. So good job. All right, Miriam. What's going on here? We got cool trees, got the trailer that's empty. Not much going on for me here, though. Is there a way to frame this trailer interesting? Is the trailer interesting enough? I just don't know. I think Miriam, your name is spelled correctly. Yeah. Yay. Okay, my assistant got it this time. Yeah, I don't know if this is, the trailer's just not as interesting to me, Miriam, unfortunately. I'm not sure if there was a way to compose it like more centered or frame within this frame of these leaves or trees or something. I like the layering of the different trees. Like you can see there's probably like 3 different tree types here. You got the pine tree on the right. I don't know if that's like some kind of oak or something in the background. And then there's like a foreground leaf that's out of focus in the top left. Yeah, I don't know. I'm being a little critical. I think I'm going to give it a 2. I think you could maybe find a subject that's more engaging to look at than that empty trailer. And Mirella, this is a beautiful photo. This is even like iconic, like barn in the middle, centered, flat horizon, sunsetty. Oh, it was at a zoo. Okay, I didn't have any rural scenes. All right, Miriam, that explains that explains it. I love this. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. It's my style of using like negative space and balance symmetry of like the same size of foreground or like landscape to sky. Love this photo, Mirella. Good job. Todd, ooh, black and white texture of this barn. I'm interested in what color this barn was. I think because it's black and white and because everything's a little dark, it's hard to see it's hard to see the textures. There's so much going on here with the grasses, the fence, the barn in the background. You got this tree, but it all you kind of lose. It's all kind of lost in like one exposure. So I'm curious what this looks like with color. I'm going to give it a 2 because I think the setting is nice. It's rural, but I think there's you're losing it with all being one sort of exposure. All right, Annette. The farm, the plow, the farmland is nice, but it's out of focus. Again, there's like some motion blur or something. And maybe there's a way to get like a cool creative motion blur, because when you drive by crops like this with lines, it creates this cool like static kind of stutter effect. But here, since it's out of focus, I think if it was in focus, I don't mind the negative space and composition of this. I'd probably give it a 3, but because it's out of focus, I'm going to give it a 2. The black and white's not necessarily bad for this, and sometimes black and white can really highlight texture, which I want to see in these rows of fields. David posts this one, and again, like black and white, nice textures. The subject is the fence. Is it enough to be an interesting subject to look at? Maybe. I'm going to give it a 3 because it's in focus, but not as interesting to look at as some of these other photos we've seen. Maribel, that's like a cool house in the distance. I think it's a little tilted, maybe straighten out the land, the horizon, or just like the land underneath the house or the bottom of the house, straighten that out. Maybe a different way to compose just the house without like this tree on the right side. I think like the house itself is really interesting, but yeah, so I think 2. Textures are interesting, but I don't know. All right, Suzanne, pig, interesting texture. Not in focus though. Yeah, there's a little bit of motion blur, I think. So I think for that reason, I'm going to give it a 2. Your subject's there, creative, interesting subject, but just a little bit off. Ooh, Cree, this is a good photo. All right, that's cool. This looks like in Machu Picchu. And I mean, again, it's partially just having that ability to go to this interesting place that makes this a more interesting photo. Yeah, I mean, it's a 4. I think it's like iconic. We've seen photos like this before. We've probably all seen a photo of these like lamb or sheep that live up here. Alpaca, I don't know what that is. Is it a 5? Maybe. It feels a little tilted. I don't know. I think I'm getting. I've been doing this almost 2 hours, so I'm getting a little bit mixed up with all of these photos and how I feel about them. But I think solid 4. Rosemarie, ooh, see, this is more interesting to me. I like that you shot in the middle of this barbed wire. I like that the barn is framed in there. That mountain, that snowy peak in the background, if there was a way to just darken that up a little bit just so you can see it clearer, I think I like that idea. I like the tree overhanging and framing this photo. So for this scene, I think you did a really good job, and I'm also going to give this one a 4. Now, some people might be like, Phil, why'd you give this one a 4 and then the Machu Picchu one also a 4? Just based off the photo itself, not taking into account like the epicness of the location, I actually really like how you framed this photo a lot. Diana, cool photo from eye level. I would have crouched down, gotten closer to the road to create more of a leading line up to this building. I feel like that would have been more interesting, or done something creative like the one before where it's, you know, framed within the fence post or something like that. I think you could have got more creative with the composition here. Like, it's a building, it's exposed well, the colors are nice, but compositionally not too creative. So I'd probably give this like a 3, maybe leaning 2, just to push you to get to be a little bit more creative. Click at Sight. This is also, I think, a first photo from Click at Sight. Looks like a more tropical rural scene. I want like a subject. I want something that stands out rather than just like this foreground of plants, which is interesting. Shot at sunset. There's something going on with like the masking of the sky versus the foreground. I think that's like creating a weird kind of ghosting, clouding kind of thing going at the bottom of the frame. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2. I think find a specific tree that's interesting, find a specific subject. I see some sort of like structures on the bottom left of the frame. Find a rock, find something to like highlight in the scene with this as a background, and it would have been a lot better. And wow, we did it. I think that's a record for the longest frame by frame that we've done. So I am so glad that you've stuck with me, for whoever's here. I appreciate it. And good job, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this week. Next week, as we saw, was what was the weekly challenge? Creative light. So get creative with those lights. What I'm looking for is, getting creative with the light. Like, not just lights necessarily that are creatively shot, but like a subject that has interesting lighting. Something like that. Maybe long exposures with light streaks would be cool. But beyond just like the idea of light that's creative, make sure that there's a subject that's interesting. Make sure that, and if there's not an interesting subject, make sure that the composition is creative and interesting. All right. With that, have a beautiful day. Head over to the community to ask any questions. I will be back next week. And just keep trucking along, and thank you for being here. All right, much love. See ya. Bye.